What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. What I want to talk about today is going to be spinnerbait tips for late fall and early winter bass fishing, because spinnerbaits are a great tactic to catch giant bass, but people oftentimes are throwing the wrong spinnerbaits and they're not getting bit, not because they're throwing the right bait, but because they're throwing the wrong style of the right bait. So let's dive right into it. Most oftentimes guys are still throwing spinnerbaits with double willow leaves, right? You're going down the bank, you're throwing a spinnerbait, hoping to get bit, because we all know spinnerbaits catch giant bass. We see JT Kenny do it all the time down in Florida. Well, it works all over the country. The problem is these little blades right here. So in certain parts of the country, whether you're in Florida or in the Midwest, these blades will still catch big fish, especially if you're fishing deep. If you're fishing deep with a spinnerbait, you can absolutely still throw these big willow leaves right here, because you can slow it down. You know, if you're throwing a 3/4, an ounce spinnerbait, just crawling it on the bottom, you can absolutely 100% do that all winter long, but you have to throw it in the right depths, right? So keeping those big blades in the place they belong, which is deep. And so that's gonna lead me to the next part I'm gonna talk about, is this little baby right here. Big Colorado blade. That's going to be your best friend if you're trying to fish shallow right now with a spinnerbait and that water temp is below 60. Honestly, that's the best blade that you can throw, because what it does is it slows your spinnerbait down and it puts out a lot of thump. And this time of year, fish are feeding more with their lateral lines than they are with their actual eyes. And so they're literally just sitting in big laydowns. They're sitting in these big isolated pieces of cover that have the capability to hold heat. They're sitting on isolated stumps. They're sitting in all these different places on bluff walls. And you can catch them with these baits, but you have to throw the right blade combinations to get them. There's also one surprise spinnerbait that I absolutely love to throw. Let me see if I have one laying around right here. So probably my favorite fall spinnerbait, fall early winter spinnerbait, is going to be a big willow leaf spinnerbait. And I know I just talked the complete opposite about that, right? What I love about this big spinnerbait is it's this big coleslaw, dirty colored spinnerbait. And what I like about it is it has a light head, but giant blades on it. And so that's also another way I'm going to slow this bait down, is by fishing baits that are too light for the water that they're in, so that way I can actually crawl those babies. You really want to be aware of the weights on the spinnerbaits that you are throwing, because if you're throwing too heavy, you're going to move it too fast and those fish are going to go, whoa, you know, they're not even going to like feel that the blade goes by. They're just going to be completely doing their own thing. And so with all of that runoff this time of year, dirtier colored water, love that big coleslaw spinnerbait. And with spinnerbaits, the brighter the colors, most oftentimes you get bigger bass. I don't know why. It's more of just I don't know if it's a personal thing or if it's those bright colors shy smaller fish away, but man, that big coleslaw spinnerbait gets absolutely bit. If you're not fishing rivers right now, you're missing out, because right now those big bass are in rivers and they're moving to their wintering holes, and so they get really, really stacked up, just like bass do in lakes where they go to their wintering holes. They do the exact same things in rivers. And river fishing, man, if you're not throwing a spinnerbait, you're doing it wrong. So with the blade combinations that we talked about, there's also some trailer tips that you're going to want to know when you're throwing a spinnerbait. The first is going to be the style of trailer. There's 3 styles that I throw. I throw either a really thin double tail, you know, split tail trailer that does a really good job, or I like to throw a paddle tail. So 2 styles. The paddle tail does a great job at also slowing that spinnerbait down. I love to throw that on this Booyah Colorado blade spinnerbait. Again, all of these baits will be linked down below as always. But I love to throw it on that Colorado blade, because what it does is I rig it on there upside down and it catches a ton of water and gets that tail moving. And it's just another way that really lets that spinnerbait just creep through the water, putting off a ton of vibration and a ton of thump to really draw those big fish out of those places. You can do the exact same thing on any one of these other willow leaf spinnerbaits. If your spinnerbait isn't getting to the diving depth you want it to, and you have a paddle tail on it and you feel like you're going slow enough, go to a split tail trailer. Slow it down a little bit, get a thinner profile. If you feel like you're fishing too fast, put a swim bait on there. Slow it down. Utilize the trailers that you put on here, because it's really going to change how your spinnerbait reacts in the water. You can do the same thing with the line size. Heavier line is going to make it ride up higher. Lighter line is going to make it ride deeper. So keep these spinnerbait tips in mind when you're out there on the water. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.